Hi everyone, it's Hannah. I chose to do my project on schizophrenia because I have an uncle who has schizophrenia, and I thought it'd be interesting to share the perspective of someone who kind of has actually experienced being around someone with schizophrenia. And because it's one thing to read about it and just like understand, oh yeah, I know what that is, but to really experience and be in the midst of someone who has schizophrenia is a very different experience from reading it. So I chose to do my project on that. So yeah. So to start off, schizophrenia is when the mind kind of suffers a split from reality, in which it experiences disturbed perceptions and thinking, really inappropriate emotions or actions for the time where it is. Someone may laugh when hearing really bad news about themselves or something like that. So these either show up in positive symptoms or negative symptoms. Positive and negative don't mean good or bad. Positive means that inappropriate actions are present, and negative means that appropriate actions are absent. So an example of positive would be hallucinations or paranoia, and an example of negative would be more of a toneless voice or rigid body. So yeah. So now I'm going to get into brain abnormalities a little bit more. So they have an excess amount of dopamine receptors in their brain, which intensifies the brain's signals that are being passed, and that can create positive symptoms like hallucinations and paranoia. They also have low activity in the frontal lobe, which is, where you reason and plan. What's also interesting is they have a very unusual corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is the band of nerve fibers that connect the left and right hemispheres, and that's how the left and right hemispheres communicate with each other, and they don't have a very strong connection, which I think is interesting. So there was a study that people did of taking brain scans of people that were hallucinating, and what they found was that there were 3 areas of the brain that were very active while someone was hallucinating. So the first one was the thalamus, which is what filters incoming sensory signals and transmits them into the brain's cortex. The second one is the amygdala, which is the fear processing center. And what's also interesting is there were areas of the brain that became enlarged and filled with fluid, and cerebral tissue also shrunk. So now I'm going to get into the different types of brain scans that have been used for people to help understand what schizophrenia is and how it works in the brain. So one of them is the PET scan, which stands for positron emission tomography scan. So this is a scanner that detects radioactive material that is injected or inhaled. It provides scientists with a function of the brain and how the brain works. So the other one is the SPECT scan, which is single photon emission computed tomography scan. This is the one I based my project off of. So it shows areas of activity in the brain. So healthy areas of the activity, areas where there's too much activity, and areas where there's too little activity. It's a measure of the cerebral blood flow, and amount of blood flow in one area corresponds with the amount of activity in that area. So what's also cool about this is it's over a few minutes, so it shows a more consistent result than other ones. So for my project, I decided to paint a brain scan, one of a healthy brain and one of someone with schizophrenia. So this one is a healthy brain. It's very even. I just did it this color because that's what the scan looks like when it comes out. It's very colorful, but it's even, it's very flat, but this one is someone who's had schizophrenia for a long time. So as you can see, the areas where the black is where there's very low activity. So as you can see, there's a lot up here in the frontal lobes, like I mentioned before, and it's a really, really drastic comparison from one and the other. So for my last part, I'm going to talk about nature versus nurture, because there's a lot of argument about how schizophrenia develops, and in my opinion, it's definitely a balance of both, because you cannot have one without. It can reduce schizophrenia by up to 86% if that person has a high risk for schizophrenia. So for most people, the odds of being diagnosed with schizophrenia are about 1 in 100. If someone has a sibling or a parent with schizophrenia, it changes to about 1 in 10. And if that affected sibling is an identical twin, it goes to 1 in 2. So it's pretty drastic, the change. So yeah, that was my project. I really hope you liked it. Just know that schizophrenia is very, very complex, and just because I listed all of these things does not automatically mean you have schizophrenia or will get schizophrenia. It's a combination of things that form it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching.